Okay, all set. So welcome again, and let's begin the session. As I was saying, the structure for the day is we'll have a discussion on specifically on forgiveness. Uh, Everything based on Master Choa's teaching, of course. We'll be referring specifically to this book, Experience Being. Then we'll do meditation on Twin Heart, and finally we will practice forgiveness. Helen, if you end up missing practicing forgiveness, you can do that in your own time, but it will be good to. That's something we like to do every session here. So for today we'll use technology. I've got slides, so hold on. There we go. Can you see a PowerPoint on your screen now? Yeah. Okay, great. So as I was saying, discussion for today is on forgiveness. Everything that we're talking about today is based on the teachings of Master Choa Kok Sui. I normally listen to three of his senior students, Master Hector Ramos, Master Stephen Ko, and a gentleman by the name of Sri Ram Rajgopal in India. All three of them directly studies with Master. So a lot of things that I'm discussing and saying I've learned through them as well. But again, everything comes and is based on the teachings of Master Choa Kok Sui. There are a few additional things that I'll talk about today. I'll point them out so that everybody's very clearly aware that they're coming from a different source, but just an interpretation, to be honest. Okay. And the book that we are using today is one of the Lotus Sutras, Experience Being. This is on life. And there's a chapter on forgiveness. I would highly recommend you get a copy. Otherwise, for today, just let's listen along. Now, as always, we start our session by asking ourselves why is it that we are here? So we are here in this session. Why is it that we are taking an hour or slightly more than an hour out of our Wednesday evening to come together? Uh, the key purpose is to do meditation on Twin Hearts as a group. And again, um, I like the whole, the consulting kind of things. Keep asking the three whys to get to the root of why exactly we are here and what we are doing. It is it is very helpful in understanding our own motives now. The reason why we want to do this meditation together is when seven or more people and meditate together, the amount of spiritual energy that we are able to bring down is tremendous. It increases exponentially. So two people is actually much more than one plus one in this case. So that's the reason why we get together. And why we have these discussions is to remind ourselves that meditation is a part of everything, not the whole. And Master Choa Kok Sui has given us a framework of character building, which we practice because all kind of meditation activities, all kind of wholesome activities, they bring down some level of energy into our system, which has a fertilizing effect. Uh, The video from Master Choa Kok Sui, which was released by Global Pranic Healing, is still available, by the way. That video was specifically on purification. So, for those of you who haven't seen it, I would recommend please go back and see the video. He talks a lot about why do these activities. So I will leave it at that. Again, as I said, Master Choa expresses it in less amount of words in a more powerful manner. So that is still online. So go for it. Now, one of the key things that we want to discuss is about forgiveness. We have been consciously practicing forgiveness well, ever since we started these sessions, right, at the end of the meditation. And there's a very good reason to that. Of course, forgiveness, you can say, is part of the first virtue in the framework that we follow of loving kindness and non-injury. And we can talk about that. But I think it is very, very important and there's a lot to it. So I thought it's much better for us to talk about this now. And when I was listening to some of the lectures which I was referring to earlier, I think it's a very good thing to do after we cover the virtue of honesty and non-lying, because it helps us understand things much, much better, right? So, continuing the theme of why do anything, why should we practice forgiveness? Why not just let it be, right? So, as per the books of Master Choa, as per his teachings, there's some reasons, as you can see on the slide, but I'll start with the book first, okay? And you would love the first reason. So forgiveness heals the soul. It is therapeutic in nature. The reason young people look so pretty is that they have not been scarred by life. So you must learn to forgive or you will dry up like dead wood. And this made me laugh. There are a lot of deeper reasons to forgive. But if you remember from when we were studying Twin Heart meditations in detail, and Master Choa said at the end of it that you should do physical exercises for sure at the end of it, don't skip them. Otherwise, your body will age faster. And similarly, if you do not practice forgiveness, you will dry up like dead wood. So if anybody finds that reason compelling enough, I think that's good enough and we can stop. But we'll keep going. There's more to it. I'm just give me a second. I'm just keeping a check on people if anybody is. Is anybody waiting in the lobby? Would you guys get to see it? Well, if you do, just alert me, please. Okay. So that's one very good reason, but let's continue. Your spiritual development depends on your ability to forgive others. Your ability to fly in the inner world depends on inner forgiveness. If you do not forgive, you will continue to think about the offender and the unpleasant event. By forgiving and blessing, you stop wallowing in the mud and you achieve inner peace and freedom. Do not be unhappy. The past is past. Let go. Learn to forgive and forget. Let go and go on living. The way to handle your enemies is to forgive. To be free, some people must consciously forgive over and over again. And we'll cover this thing. Forgiveness is not a one-time activity. I mean, one big thing about this is that it's an activity. It's something that needs to be done. Second, it's not a one-time activity, it's a continuous activity. Anger and hatred bind people together. When you hate someone, it creates an energy link with the person. You become chained to the person and your soul becomes entangled with that. If you want to be free, you must forgive people. So another very, very good reason, right? I mean, typically the people we want to forgive are not the ones we want to be tied to, not the ones we want to be attached to, and not the ones we want to be thinking about all the time. But lack of forgiveness does exactly that. And that is why it is important to actively practice forgiveness. So to summarize, why do we need to forgive? And to me, the number one reason on the slide right now is actually a very, very good reason to do that, and probably sufficient to do that, because it is in my self-interest. It's in my healthy self-interest. And Master Choa in his teachings very, very carefully distinguishes between what is selfishness and what is self-interest. I want to have better physical health, and there's enough study available uh, to tell us that anger, resentment, and a lot of negative emotions have a direct impact on our physical health. Lot of for people who have done uh, sorry advanced pranic healing or psychotherapy, you would have seen this in the book and in the protocols that a lot of physical ailments have emotional origins. If you look at study research, stress has a significant impact on a lot of things. You talk about very simple example, the most common example, people with blood pressure issues. The doctors will always ask them one of the first questions, hey, are you stressed in your life? Because they understand, and it's very, very clear that having negative emotions can lead to physical ailments. So that's number one reason. Second, if you look at your emotional and mental health, how do you feel on a day-to-day basis? I would forgive just for that, to have peace in my life. I would like to not dwell upon things again and again because it is taking up my mental bandwidth. I mean, no matter how smart you are, no matter how great you are, at the end of the day, there's only a limited amount of mental bandwidth that you have. And if the thoughts that you have is constantly about hate, anger, resentment, revenge, and some kind of massive vendetta, there's a problem because it stops us from focusing on some of the good things in our lives, things that we want to do. I'm not sure if anybody here attended Master Mary Lag's uh, session on prosperity, the 21 days to prosperity that she did. One of the key things that she talked about was how to create your life using thoughts. A few weeks ago, when we were talking about um, character building, we were listening to Master Choa in his video saying that thoughts are the beginning of everything. Everything starts with thoughts. So if our thoughts are constantly occupied, something that we don't like, something that we hate, something that is really troubling us, there's a problem because we are closing down opportunities, A, to be healthy and also to be prosperous and any kind of growth. Just imagine you want to do brilliant things in life. You want to create something in your life, in your personal life, in your businesses, or anything, but you're completely occupied with some anger, resentment thoughts which just cannot go away. And you're focusing on the one person you want to get away from. Have you come across people who go to this beautiful holiday? They're sitting on the most wonderful beach or the most magnificent view they can have, but they're not able to enjoy it. Why? Because their mind is somewhere else. They're actually still focusing on what someone said or did many, many days ago, many, many years ago. Who knows? There is no peace there. So, purely for that, I would absolutely do that. And the act of forgiveness, oh, sorry, I missed the last point, greater healing powers. For those of us who are pranic healers, again, this is something that, there's, if you ever get a chance, we'll cover that. Otherwise, I'm sure Gauri will cover that in one of her sessions. Is when people learn pranic healing, some of the questions are, how do I become a better healer? How do I become a more powerful healer? And one of the answers, not the only answer, is to get rid of anger and resentment from your system, because that is an energy that is going to affect our ability to channel healing energies through us. I know this session is actually open for everybody, not even pranic healers, so I won't dwell upon that. But for those of us who are interested in actually magnifying our healing powers, that is very, very important. So, brilliant thing to do. Again, um, in the first book itself, the Pranic Healing Level 1 book, if you go to the part where it says, when should you not heal? One of the points that comes is, do not heal when you are angry. So if you're angry for all the time, it tells you what is the state of your own self, that you're not capable of helping anybody at that point. So again, another brilliant reason on why do this. So hopefully this is convincing enough for us to consider the act of forgiveness seriously. So let's move on. I'm going to cover all of it. So why do this? What exactly forgiveness is, what it is not, and how should we go about this? So first thing, what is forgiveness? And this again, as I said, I would point out, so this is not from Master Choa's book. I actually went and asked ChatGPT to find me an answer to that. And I came across some wonderful definitions, but this one was the one which I think is most apt and most in line with what we are discussing. So forgiveness is a conscious, deliberate decision and following actions to release feelings of resentment or vengeance towards a person or group who has harmed you, regardless of whether they actually deserve it. Now, there are a few things which I want to highlight here. Number one, sorry, why is this happening? My apologies. Two things which I want to highlight here is the a conscious and deliberate decision. So forgiveness needs to be practiced. It needs to be done. There's a saying which goes something like time heals all wounds. That is not forgiveness. That is just letting time pass, letting things happen over a period of time. Hopefully the pain and suffering will go down and you forget about it. That's not what we're talking about. Yes, it does. And we'll talk about levels of forgiveness, and time is a very, very big factor there. But it's a very conscious decision, something that we decide that we want to do, we need to do, and then we get on with it, which means there's also a process to be followed. The second, probably more important, equally important, is that it is regardless of whether the people in front of us actually deserve our forgiveness. Because that's where most people who want to practice forgiveness, who want to forgive somebody, they get stuck. That the other person does not deserve our forgiveness. And because of this, I will not forgive. And and that's where the biggest problem is, because when we talk about forgiveness, especially when we're talking about forgiveness with in line with the teachings of Master Choa Kok Sui, this is a very, very self-interest driven activity. It actually has not much to do with the other people, right? So that's very, very important. Now, to make things easier, it's also good to understand what forgiveness is not. It is not about if you're choosing to forgive somebody, if we are choosing to forgive somebody, it doesn't mean that we are accepting the mistake to be okay, or we are condoning the person, or, the bigger one, we are invalidating. A lot of times, oh no, maybe I am being too sensitive, or uh, I'm the one who needs to be a bit more relaxed about things. Incidents happen, small, big, and over a period of time, we may get in a situation where we might question ourselves, hey, was I actually being right? I mean, do I even have the right to be upset here? So if you forgive, it doesn't mean that you are accepting the fact that, there was nothing harmful done to you. You're not accepting the excuses. This is not condoning the behavior of other people. It is not about forgetting. Okay, when I was, the previous thing that I was talking about, the definition, which was from the University of Berkeley, I like the way they were talking about forgiveness, that it does not mean that, I think there was a very nice punchline. It doesn't mean forgetting is not a part of it. So your memories do not go away by practicing forgiveness. It is your misery that goes away. And I like that. It was a pretty cool definition of how to look about it. By the way, this source I would highly recommend, thegreatergood.berkeley.edu. It has some excellent, excellent articles on forgiveness from so many perspectives, from scientific perspective, from medical perspective, from religion perspective. And I agreed with most of it. Some of it I didn't. And I didn't finish it because there were so many of them. But I would highly recommend that source. So check it out if you feel like it. Then again, the last part, forgiveness is not about allowing the person back in your life fully, completely, in the same way, different way. Just because you're forgiven does not mean you need to now put yourself in a position where you will again face the same level of hurt, pain, suffering. It's not about that. So forgiving, it's a conscious decision, regardless of whether the person deserves it. And it is not about accepting that the wrong was okay in any shape or form. And these are just some of the things that I have listed based on things that have come up in our lectures and Master Choa's teachings. But think of anything that kind of negates that experience. Forgiveness is not at all about that. Okay. And this is where this beauty in Master Choa's teachings is because it helps you allow that. The moment we understand the concept on the slide right now, that forgiveness, they're kinds. There's inner forgiveness and there's outer forgiveness. Once we understand this concept, the exercise of forgiveness becomes relatively easy because everything that we talked about, what forgive is not, it is not about accepting the person as it is. It is not about, erasing the memory of it. None of that. So these are the two things that I will talk about in detail today: inner forgiveness and outer forgiveness. So, number one, inner forgiveness is for all. Because why? Forgiveness is for self-interest. And there was another, when I keep coming across quotes, I should make a better note of them. But there was a quote by, I think this comes from an ancient saint in India, I think. And he said that being angry is like consuming poison and hoping that the other person would die. So again, a very nice one-line bumper sticker kind of a thing, but makes you think. It really, really makes you think and gives you a very, very good reason to practice it. I'll give you a parallel example. Think about diet. So I know this one person who was quite addicted to soft drinks, Pepsi, Coke, and all of that stuff. And it was, everybody knows there's enough marketing and studies around that these things are not good for you. Especially these things are not good for you in very high quantities. So he wanted to change that and he wanted to quit that completely. But the whole idea about quitting it did not help him. He never got there. I'll reduce it. I will have less of it. I'll only have it when I'm having my whiskey, whatever. It didn't work. Then one day he changed the mindset and said, this is poison to my body. And I do not want to consume poison, even in small quantities. Fast forward a few months, his consumption went down from maybe 2 or 3 glasses of Coke a day to about 2 or 3 glasses of Coke in a year. That too, very, very rarely. And the reason why there was success for him was because it was a change of mindset. He started looking at that as poison. Now, it is not poison really, but the fact that he looked at it, so every time he saw that, it's like, oh no, definitely not going to put this in my body. Period. End of discussion. Now, if we can have the same attitude towards anger, resentment, then forgiveness becomes easy because we are saying, okay, these emotions are poisonous energies which are going to harm me in short term or in long term, but the negative impact is almost guaranteed. If that is the case, I want them out of my system. If I want them out of my system, I am sorry, I do not care about the person who caused it. It's like somebody gave you poison now, and your first reaction is not going to be about the person. Your first reaction is going to be, I do not want to consume poison. Get it away from me. And that's where inner forgiveness comes in. So if we are practicing inner forgiveness, we do not want to suffer. We do not want our mind, our thoughts to be occupied with that particular thing. Master Choa calls it getting stuck in the mud or wallowing in the mud. You do not want to wallow in the mud. And I'm not sure if you have experienced it, but a lot of times when we are upset and we are thinking negatively about a person for days, for months, for years, if you actually think about it, the other person has long since moved on, is not even aware of your misery, doesn't care. You could be looking for, vindication, something bad to happen, justification, whatever. Nothing is happening because the other person has moved on, but you are stuck. So, you remember, the way Master Cho used to describe that is like, it's like this is your hand, and anger is holding you. You want to go and do something else now with your right hand, but this just won't let go. And if you want to actually go ahead and do something useful, you have to release this. Just let go. Your hand is free now. Do what you want. So it's not about this hand. It was about freeing this hand. And that's what inner forgiveness is all about. So inner forgiveness is for everybody, no matter what happens, no matter what kind of pain, suffering we have to face in our lives. Inner forgiveness is for everybody. Why? Because it is in our healthy self-interest. I want to let go so that I can have a better life. I can be healthy. I can have peace. I can be creative. I can be prosperous. Uh, all I. This is the one thing where, we can talk about I as much as we want. Normally, it's all about, hey, let's not be self-centered so much. But in this case, absolutely. In my head, treat it as poison so that you will avoid it all the time. And you will practice forgiveness as a cure, as a medicine for yourself. Now, outer forgiveness is a completely different matter. Outer forgiveness is your reaction, is your action, is your behavior towards the other person or towards a group of people. So while inner forgiveness is for everybody, outer forgiveness is genuinely for the case-to-case basis. You know, let's take a few extreme examples to really understand this concept. Uh, let's say if you're working in an office, right, and somebody steals. Maybe you have a business and one of your associates steals money from you. Now, of course, it upsets you, it makes you angry, and you need to forgive the person. And in time, you will, with the right techniques and everything, you will. But externally, what is it that you should do? If you forgive and say, it's okay, I forgive you, there are chances that the other person is going to take advantage of that and steal more. Not good for your business, not good for people associated with your business. So the right action could be, I forgive you internally, but we cannot put up with this, so you're out of the company. Next time now the very good idea of forgiveness would be next time after some time, and we'll talk about what is some time. When you come across the person, if you're able to look him in the eye and not be upset about his act of stealing, then you know that, hey, I have forgiven him internally. But you drew a boundary that I'm sorry, I will not allow you near money when it concerns my business. And if that upset, the other person can come and tell you, oh, if you have truly forgiven me, you will let me back. No, I'm smart as well. I mean, this is where I'm using my, what we learned in the virtue of honesty and online. I'm using my accurate perception and correct expression. So I did my accurate perception, which is careful observation, correct interpretation. My observation was this person has tendency to steal money. My correct interpretation was, okay, this makes me upset. I don't want to be upset. So practice inner forgiveness. And he's not good for my organization. So he's out. And that's it. And that is your correct expression. And you did that. Take a second example, right? Let's say somebody close to you, maybe in your family, in your kids, your grandkids, who knows? They did something appalling, something that really hurt you, upset you. So, what is step one? You look at it. Okay, you realize I'm upset. This is making me angry. Okay, that's not good for me. It is going to take away my mind space. I'm going to be focused on negative thoughts. This may lead to stress, anxiety, and some physical ailments around that. I will not have time to focus on the beautiful things that I want to. I will probably let go of some of my prosperity energy, and I don't want to do that. And the first thing, I will end up like dry wood and look terribly old. I don't want to do that. So, what is my correct expression? Forgive. I do internal forgiveness. Now, the person in front of me is part of my family. I really love them, and I want to accept them back. So maybe the correct expression would be, okay, I'm going to discipline you if you're a child. If it's a partner or maybe an elder, I'm going to have a tough conversation with you that I need to. I'm going to make sure I tell you why this upsets me. But once we talk about it, I'm going to let it go. Next time you come, next time we talk, I'm not going to hold that against you, and all my love will continue to flow the way it should be. Maybe it even makes a stronger relationship. So these are two different examples to help us understand that there are times, but in every case, outer forgiveness tells us you need to do it properly. Master Choa says in his books that if we do not practice outer forgiveness, there will be chaos and injustice in the world. Think on a country level. If you are, let's say, I don't know, uh, the prime minister of the country, and you see there are a lot of hate crimes happening in your country, a lot of murders happening in your country, you're going to be terribly upset. It is your responsibility. You are in the position. What are you going to do? That, oh, I'm a student of Master Choa Kok Sui. I have been told to practice loving kindness. So you're all forgiven. Go for it. No, you cannot do that because that's going to lead to chaos in the society. So internally forgive. Externally, if you have to put people in prison, do that. You have to do that. So in every scenario, it is very, very good to step back, learn, practice what we have learned, which is accurate perception and correct expression. Look at this situation. The first correct expression is a default yes, I need to internally forgive the other person. Externally or not, depends on the circumstances. Okay. So let me take a pause. We're not going to finish the discussion on forgiveness today, I can assure you. Uh, so we'll continue that next week as well. There's a few more points. But any questions, any thoughts, any experiences that you would want to share? Okay. I'm just going to touch upon this and we will continue this discussion next time. Just for, well, it's like a teaser trailer. We're going to talk about what are the barriers to forgiveness, what are the levels of forgiveness, and how do you make this a more efficient practice. So, we will not cover all of these, so I'm going to stop sharing. But the reason I wanted to cover this was everything that we talked about, everything that we learned from Master Choa's teachings, from wherever we go. Forgiveness is a very common topic, right? It is there in medical literature, it is there in science, it is there in religion, of course. You know, if it is such a beautiful concept, then why is it that people don't do that? What is it that stops us from doing that? And this again, the tools that we have at our disposal, again, accurate perception and correct expression, they allow us to understand why is it that and it is all we. I wish I was in a place where I could tell you, hey, do this because I did this 5 years ago and I'm so free of anger, resentment. I have none of that. Not the case. Still working towards that. But what are the things that really, really stop us? And there are quite a few. Okay, so I'll cover maybe three of these. Okay. Number one, and almost all of this comes from lack of a clear understanding of what is inner forgiveness and what is outer forgiveness. Because a lot of people do not do the inner forgiveness because they can't differentiate between the two. For example, somebody did something that really, really, really upset us. We believe it is not fair for us to forgive that person within days. That person deserves our anger for the next few years at the very minimum. And then, and maybe then, I will be ready to forgive. Or I want the person to jump through hoops, do 50 things to tell me that he is sorry or she is sorry, and then I will do that. Now, why do we get sucked into that? Incorrect perception. We think internal and outer forgiveness are different. The right thing to do would be internally forgive as soon as you can, and you want to make them jump through hoops to get them back in your inner circle. You do that, but that is your expression of outer forgiveness. But you don't hold that anger within you. Second, and we'll stop on this one, is righteous indignation. We believe the person, something really wrong has been done to us, and the other person must suffer. God makes something happen that that person suffers. I want that person to face the consequences of his or her actions. One of the biggest things, because and the reason why it is righteous indignation is because you don't even feel there's anything wrong about that. We are so deluded by this idea that we forget that wishing somebody something bad to happen to somebody else is mental violence. And we have spent so much time on talking about how everything starts with your thoughts. And we are getting into the cycle of projecting something bad to happen to other person, which we know by laws of karma is going to come back and affect us. But we believe it's still the right thing because the other person did something wrong. It is very, very difficult. This one is really, really difficult to go. Think about this, like things like, again, extreme examples help. Murder or, a lot of racism related crimes that we see. We want the person to suffer. And if somebody has hurt our family, it's terrible. I was watching this TV series. Okay. No, Gail, I'm not recommending a TV series. I'm just telling you I was watching one. It's called Shrinking. It's on Apple TV. It's about a group of therapists. And there's a teenage girl who has to somehow, for some reason, confront the one person who was responsible for her mother's death in a car accident. And she wants the guy to suffer, but she's surrounded by some wonderful therapists. And Harrison Ford apparently is the best therapist in the world, which I learned from that series. And she gets convinced that she has to let it go because of her own peace. She has suffered for a year, 2 years, and then she is able to forgive and move on because she wants to have a better life. And I was like, of course, now, if you think from that perspective, that is such an extreme example. And of course, it's fiction. But yes, how do you forgive something that big? But the idea is because you want the other person to suffer, he should be in prison, he should be suffering for 20 years, 30 years. There's so many things that stop us from doing that, right? So this is where, again, it's incorrect understanding. It is inaccurate perception. Focus on the fact that I need to do this for myself. Inner forgiveness. Externally, yes. Make sure the person suffers or make sure he goes through the proper channels, whatever needs to be done. But it is not just up to you. You being angry is not punishing the other person, that is punishing yourself. So that is one of the key reasons. There are quite a few, and there's some there. We'll talk about some cultural reasons. And I have in my notes on that I'm going to talk about the movie Godfather when I do that, but all that for next week. So, uh, any other point, anything that comes to your mind that you would like to talk about? Okay, if not, then it's time to meditate. Yes, Gail, please.
Sorry, I couldn't find the thing. I was very, very, very upset and angry with my daughter. Have I said this before? When
No, you haven't.
she forgot my birthday. My
Ah,
birthday is a week after my daughter's birthday, and I do a lot for my daughter. And I was very, very, very hurt, really hurt that she'd forgotten all about it completely. Um, and Bob, who some of you will have met, sort of said,
yeah.
You just need to forgive her because this is not doing you any good at all." And I can remember saying, "I'm not ready to forgive her." And I went and sat down next to the Miracles book, which was just on the sofa, and I picked it up, and it fell open at the um, the prayer of St Francis of Assisi. And for the first time, I realised there was a second sort of part to it, because I'm used to the first part in
Yeah,
obviously Twin Hearts, and it says, "Seek to understand, not to be understood." And that just, I can't just absolutely got over it instantly, because I thought, no, this is me just feeding my pain, and I shouldn't, why are you doing this to me? You don't understand how hurtful it is. And it was
yeah.
me just generating all this anxiety and stuff. And I thought, well, perhaps I should give thought to, why has she forgotten, and whatever. But it took the sting out of it completely. I went from being absolutely ragingly angry and deeply upset, looked at that and thought, nah, move on.
That, that's one. I mean, that's the beauty of some of these teachings. They turn up in amazing times and amazing places. You remind me of one time where, well, my father is not a pranic healer. I wish he was, because there was a situation where he thought we forgot his birthday, and all we were doing was preparing for a grand finale or a surprise in the evening. And oh God, I wish he had that book and that opened in front of him, because it would have been a different day. Okay. But yeah, thank you so much. But yeah, a lot of times this happens. Some other things as well, right? I mean, I remember an example of a lady who was upset at her granddaughter who was in her teens that she doesn't pay enough attention. But she made an effort to then go out, go to a museum or something, and with her granddaughter, and they were talking, and she pulls out her phone again, matter of habit. And now the grandma is, the lady is quite upset that, hey, my granddaughter, she's not giving me time, etc., etc., etc. But she's like, I'm not going to say this. I'm just going to hold and I'll let it go. 2 minutes later, the granddaughter shows her the phone. She says, hey, grandma, that thing that we saw in the museum that you're talking about, there's something related to that on a different street, and we can go and see it right away. So, and she was so thankful that she didn't pick a fight, because this was just a difference in understanding. And yeah, next time we'll talk about, because a lot of times when we think that we deserve forgiveness, it is just that we are the ones who are so ready to get offended and upset at the drop of a hat that the other person hasn't even done anything. And how do you deal with that? Oh, that's a nice teaser for next week. So, and we'll also talk about time, because just because you should forgive doesn't mean you're ready to forgive immediately. And that's a good topic in itself. But on that note, any other comments? Dave, Clive, Helen, anything comes to your mind? Okay. So we are going to start meditating now, which means Helen will end 10 past. So do what we discussed and we should be okay. Okay, okay. Okay. Please prepare yourself and just give me a thumbs up when you can hear the sound. Thank you.
This is Master Choa Kok